we had been diving the Yukon since 2003. So just quick background, is a real Canadian warship that was decommissioned from the Canadian Navy around 2000 to the city of San Diego, and then towed out 1.8 miles from Mission Beach and sunk. And it's the size of a football field underwater. And it's, as you know, if you can do all that in one dive, you're a good diver. Most people require a couple dives to do the whole wreck. And so that's been out there since the year 2000. And Barbara and I were originally involved in another, basically one of the start in underwater marine citizen science was we were involved in an early pilot program pioneered by Dr. Ed Parnell out of Scripps Institute, where he trained basically everyday divers on how to collect data underwater, transect lines, things like that. And he sent us down, and we were one of the earliest teams of science divers to go down on the Yukon to monitor the marine life. Now, a couple caveats there. Number one, because that was so early on after it had been sunk, there was much marine life to document.
Yeah.
And the early efforts were involved with diver species training. And so it depended on the diver's ability to identify marine life in order to be accurate. So you can see there's going to be some problems with that if the divers make a mistaken identification. Anyway, so starting from that initial project, which he later published, we decided around the year 2015, we thought, well, there's been this gap between the early study and the year 2015. And so let's do a 5-year study to monitor what marine life has accumulated on the Yukon since then. And luckily for us, in the intervening time, technologies such as the GoPro and, as Barbara mentioned, other much more high definition cameras had come onto the market. So that enabled the divers in the second study from 2015 to 2020 to take very accurate high definition photographs of marine life on the Yukon, and which we then uploaded to iNaturalist.
Well, let's just so people can get an understanding. When they sunk the Yukon, and it took a while for anything to grow on it. How would you describe it now? Because if you dive the boat, if you were to dive it this week, barring that conditions aren't great this week, but if you were, what would you see? It is a 366-foot boat that has been diverized. You can go through the entire thing if you're certified and using the proper, lines and so forth, or if you have the proper training. But it's an amazing boat to explore. What kind of life would someone see on this boat?
Right. Well, it's actually, so technically these objects that we sink underwater are called artificial reefs, as you know, and they are sunk with the idea in mind of attracting marine life. So obviously, if you dove the Yukon back in 2001, it was practically just bare metal. But right now, in the intervening years, it has become an entire ecosystem unto itself. So for example, there's kelp growing on the Yukon. I didn't even know kelp could grow on metal until I saw it on the Yukon. You have kelp forests. You have sponges, numerous species of brightly colored sponges, orange, yellow, blue colored sponges, and you have those white cauliflower like metridians, which can get up to like a foot long, and they're all over the wreck. In addition to so that kind of the marine life that attaches to the wreck is called sessile. So in addition to the sessile, you have all these vertebrates, rockfish, sheephead, not so much Garibaldi, but we've even seen, on one occasion, we saw a mola mola.
Yeah, mola molas, I've seen them there a couple times. They come into the shallows sometimes. One of the things that is the most amazing about diving that wreck, and I always love it is completely covered with Coronactus anemones.
Yes,
The bright
right.
pink, purple, reds, and then on top of that, the amount of fish that just flow over and in and out is amazing. The blacksmith, which are like this kind of navy blue with a little hint of purple in there, and then you oftentimes see these what are the painted greenlings that perfectly blend in until they swim away. And you'll see random crabs crawling over this wreck, and you're like, what are these crabs doing here? But it is, like you said, an amazing ecosystem.
Don't forget the nudibranchs.
Well, there's, yes, and that's the other thing. Spanish shawls, hermacindas, all kinds of things. Um, there's almost always sea hares on it as well, which are, about a foot long giant black sea slugs, right? It is an amazing ecosystem, and to watch it, I mean, you guys have watched it transform from its beginning, and I think it's important to give people an idea of like how cool of a location it is to dive.